And we're live. More or less where we were forced to leave off last time. Making sure my settings are all correct here. They don't exactly seem to be, but I don't have much of a choice anymore. Video's on, audio's on. That's about the best I can ask for, right? So I did make a little progress offline. I just assembled the two shells. And the funny thing is, only, just now, after we fully assembled them, am I realizing that we have 17 Phlostogen in here. Only 16 counts. But what is one wasted Phlostogen anyway? Glass being glassed because according to the substance descriptions, it is glass that will turn into honey. And we can do a range test. Whoa. Whoa. Control was a bit delayed there. I have lots of glass, but is it really possible to have enough glass? Oh. Well, this is interesting. The lava loop, now that I'm using Densys cables that have no loss, is working perfectly fine. I may not need the heat regulator on it anymore to prevent it from crashing. I'm not going to take the regulator off, because I don't trust it that much. But it's possible. Also, with the gold gears added downstairs to flywheel the food generator, I don't think we're getting this back up to 13 rads a second anymore. The one windmill that I'm powering everything off just doesn't have that kind of oomph. Now let's find somewhere to perform this experiment. Well, why did I bother making glass? There's all this desert way up here. But no, I think the prime spot will be this nice, flat, plain-looking area. So we'll just go north along the coast, throw down a whole bunch of glass, and then figure out how much of it these two grenades can transmute. if forestry was still a thing, this system would be fantastic for creating artificial biomes and therefore making places that bees want to live. We could do the whole everything bees thing again. But Sanger's forestry mod died off a long time ago. And the bees we have now, including modded, don't even come close. Pig, if you don't get out of my way. Alright, we'll just make this 2 blocks deep. And otherwise, just creating a very large glass plate. That's really it, huh? I mean, I should have been able to math out that a stack of glass is an 8x8 plate. But okay. We start off by aiming dead center with the water grenade. And what we have here is an indication that we're going to need more glass. At least honey blocks break fast. Look at all this. Who needs bees? If this is our best way to make honey, oh, it may have also turned dirt coarse. In fact, it probably did. But if we can do 1 alchemical transmutation and turn glass into this much honey, and that was just with water, then I could do basically the same thing with whichever one turns glass into glowstone. And never mind playing around with lasers, I just go, boom, giant field of glowstone. But I'd have to make a giant field of glass first. Is there an alchemical terraformer? It turns crystal blocks to glass. Well, it would have to be crystal already. Is there something that turns like soil or sand to glass? I don't think so. Unless packed ice is considered a crystal block. Which I doubt. Yeah, that's all the terraformers, so I don't think there's... Is there an effect? Liquid, solids, gases, flame. Acids get bedrock. Salt kills plants, creepers, and slimes. I mean, salt grenading a creeper sounds very entertaining. Salt and chlorine grenades sound even funnier. Sulfur dioxide cures zombie villagers. That would be a much faster way to farm some crazy villager prices. Zombifying them would be the hard part at that point. A flame destroys blocks. Terraforming, Voltus. So there's nothing that just transmutes stuff into glass. But considering we're turning dirt into coarse dirt, I don't have to transform any more honey blocks. I can just fling this anywhere and get an idea of its radius. This was water. This is also slightly removed. So I am standing on the radius that it was, which is pretty impressive. It was easily 4, maybe 5 blocks in radius. And now we have the terraforming flame grenades. I'll just eat that. That's a flame cloud, huh? Well, it didn't do the coarse dirt thing. It only affected entities, the grass, and then converted the blocks under the grass. That was kind of weird. Kind of weird. But now I guess I know what flame clouds look like. Just slowly expanding squares. And I'm inclined to believe that apart from their slow expansion rate, making it possible to run away, maybe water-type splash potions are simply better. Because they have a more consistent effect area. Whereas flame clouds, who knows what they target. There's also the obvious problem if I had used like Ignis Infernum, that substance we haven't made yet, has a flame phase reagent, then there is no telling how much damage that would do and how wide that would spread. But I'm pretty sure no matter how far I flung the grenade, it would be necessary to run. So I still need to do a couple of things, I think. Get all this honey now, basically for free, because we exploded some stuff. So that's very fun. What can I do with it? well, it can be rebottled. It can be melted for unknown reasons. I can turn equipment yellow, and it's a beam of solid potential that lasts a while. And if I bottle it, then it's sugar or blocks or a beam of potential that lasts not quite as long. Noted, I guess. So basically I just made all this because I could. And I have functionally no use for it. Yep, sounds like just another interesting experiment. This ice can go. That's not helping anybody. And our path-based chest here is completely loaded. I definitely have too many of these, given the problems we are having. And I might simply not need these anymore. Why use glass at all when I have crystal and so many things require crystal? So I'll just delete all this to create some space. Oh, did not want that to happen. I still have all the rose gold in here. Needs to go. Ingots and nuggets of iron. Plenty of fun stuff. So that is, in terms of crossroads, that is witchcraft, the cloning. That is alchemy, making fun substances and technically levitators, though we haven't made any of those. Alchemy and terraforming. Now we have technomancy. Technomancy is why I have that time beam being stored up there in the beam lab. Because technomancy gives us access to copshoium. It goes into a lot of things. Copper, shiny, orange, weirdness, yeah. There's a copshoium imbuer, which makes molten copshoium using liquids and a time beam. Some, not all, inputs also produce temporal entropy as a byproduct. The produced molten copshoium can be made into ingots the normal way. The imbuer has a capacity of only one bucket, and unlike most machines, can have the molten copshoium output overfill, which breaks the machine. Yes, Kopshoium. It's weird. It's made of time, and sometimes copper. The important thing about this bizarre substance is that its gears are weightless, including large gears. They have no inertia at all, any of them. Which means it's possible to make an almost completely inertialess rotational system. Except that the master axis, two of these master axes are not allowed to have a total inertial value of 0. So you need at least one gear somewhere that has weight to make the math work. This one, technically, can have completely weightless components. But the only reason that's legal is because it needs components with weight attached to its backside that it can drain power from. And then there's this one which we can't have, simply put. Now, before we get into the wild world of Kopshoium, actually, let's look at the fluid recipe. Turning copper to Kopshoium doubles its output, and produces no entropy. Distilled water also doubles its output, but produces entropy. You can quadruple Kopshoium to produce entropy, and you can transmute lava to it. So the only safe recipe that doesn't produce temporal entropy is molten copper. The problem, though, is, as described, it has a capacity of only 1 bucket. So we need like a half bucket of molten copper. So that's a little weird. Just a little bit. So what is this whole temporal entropy thing? Back to the introduction, which we haven't read yet. Most technomancy machines produce temporal entropy instead of using power. Temporal entropy is a reverse power system. Instead of generators making power and machines using it, machines make temporal entropy and generators destroy it. If anything fills with temporal entropy, the machine will explode. Don't let this happen. 'Tis bad. There are several config options to make temporal entropy less destructive or completely safe. I have not messed with any config options, so these capital letters they apply. Temporal entropy can be easily destroyed in an entropy sink, which requires being placed over a beacon. Entropy can be transmitted using entropy nodes. Entropy is produced, transferred, and destroyed on a per-cycle basis, just like beams. Most technomancy machines and items require Kopshoium to craft, and it's worth getting a decent supply before starting. A good first machine is the beacon harness, which produces massive amounts of beams cheaply. So we gotta generate beams and avoid temporal entropy because it's kinda deadly or dangerous for unknown reasons. The beacon harness. This is the beam producer. I want... What was the thing that destroys temporal entropy again? Did it even say what that thing was? Entropy sink. It can destroy 256 entropy per cycle. Must be placed over a beacon. And use temporal entropy nodes to get entropy from machines to the sink. So, we need a beacon if we do anything that has anything to do with temporal entropy. And the imbuer here is a cooling chamber, pure quartz, and some tubes. Technically, I don't need a beacon yet, as long as I only make this stuff from copper. There's the cooling chamber. I'll actually need 2, because the bizarre magic metal stuff will have to be cooled after it's made in molten form. So we have the Kippity Coppity Woppity imbuer, whatever the heck it is. Produces 4 temporal entropy per ingot if produced using cheaper liquids than copper. Destroyed if overflowed. Yeah, that is a 1 bucket output and a 1 bucket input. And every imbuement recipe multiplies the output. That's dangerous. So I guess we're using nuggets. Or ingots. Because a bucket is what, a block? Yeah, an ingot is 90. So a block is not quite 900. So I can do this with ingots. It's fine. I just can't take entire buckets of molten copper from this thing. And we'll need to melt my copper another way. Probably with one of these. And a heat source. Well, technically I can just use a demon. It will, very slowly, do what we need it to. But to have the best success, I'm going to need Densus cable. And we don't have enough Densus. Antidensus, that's a thing. That is a thing. Densus is emerald and adamant. That's right too. It takes emerald to get there. But why does it take emerald? don't know. I don't think anyone will tell us. Well, that's all the adamant I have. So we take one of our crystal flasks. And this reaction is a cold reaction to room temperature requiring electricity. Battery. Combine our ingredients. Temperature is good. Stick it in the zapper. And give it a zap. Densus. Which has no form other than solid. It is solid at all temperatures, which is the very property that makes it ideal for heat cables. I am going to have to make more adamant, so I can make still more densus. It's a good material. Alright, so we have a demon, a cooling chamber, a crucible, the imbuer, fluid tubes. I don't see myself needing a hopper. More tubes might be in order. And maybe a firebox just to kickstart things. Why not? There's no harm. And since we have all these capital letter warnings not to let the thing overflow, well, getting dark. I was going to say let's go find somewhere safe to build it. But that's not really a thing at night. Now, with the power of daybreak and rebooting our salt generator. Oh, missed some cane. You know what? Let's not go over the bridge. Surely I can just go back here and set this up. So I need the cooling chamber. I need my wrench. Fine, we'll get the wrench after. The cooling chamber needs to input molten garbage from the side. Molten garbage is exported from the bottom. This does not interact with... I am not going to accomplish anything Unless I'm over by the beam lab and can make use of the time beam I have in storage. So we going across the bridge after all. Because I need this stupid orange beam. And not sure how I'm going to get the beam out of storage without destroying some of it. I'm going to need more beam reflectors and my wrench. Sold at 840. Pretty nice. Beam reflector, wrench. Anything else while I'm here? No, doesn't look like it. So what we're going to do here is co-opt this beam output for now. This one is the more configurable of the two. The beam will come out of this siphon as normal, and then we'll bounce it up. Oh, maybe one block should be fine. And then fire it in the same direction. Over here will be the Kopshoium Thingummy one. Which will output into the cooling chamber, just like we had begun to set up already. The cooling chamber produces heat. The Kopshoium thingy does not interact with heat. My frame rate has disappeared. What is going on? Okay, frame rate is fine now. I'm noticing a slight problem. Maybe it can be fixed as we go. Pipe. Crucible. So this crucible will be melting. You know what? I can solve all of my problems. If I break that and put the Max Demon right here. Now the cooling chamber is chilled, and will always be able to do its job. And this gets heated and can maybe do its job. And And the demon has a maximum temperature of 2500, which doesn't melt the cable, and doesn't destroy the crucible either. Nothing does, so I don't need the firebox anyway. Oh. Okay. So its temperature is capped at just barely working. Gotcha. That's fine. Just barely working is pretty much where I need it. And this machine we have to fill, but make sure we are less than half full. And then somehow get this time beam back into this loop. Without ruining everything. I think the way to do that is to take this, put it here, and then I can just break this one and let the whole beam zip back into the main system. We lost a chunk of it. That was actually kind of expected. Unfortunate, but expected. $360 plus 90 is still less than 500, so there's one more ingot. You having desert cold problems? 450. That's as high as I dare to go. And now, is power of 8 enough? No, power of 8 is a different color. The color here is very specific, so I need enough that the color remains in the correct balance. 16 didn't do it either. Well, it's a complicated beam with a very particular color set. Also, the sun is going down again, so this is a good opportunity to retreat, read my color chart, have a nap, and then do some calculations, ignore the calculations entirely, and go back to guessing blindly. Time is way over here. A very, very specific blend of red, green, and blue. I'm really not sure what minimum power will retain this exact color without chopping off some of the red or something. And I'm not sure how to even begin to calculate that. So yeah, we're going to go back to blindly guessing. And when that fails, and we run out of time beam to throw at it, we'll have to make some more time beam. Which is an aggravating and wasteful process. At least our eggs are doing fine. $16 not good enough. Let's just go up to 64. There's enough beam in here to pound out 64 from any of these ticks. One of them has changed into an energy beam because its coloring got messed up. So lightning might happen. Oh, it worked. We have 10 ingots of copper shiny orange weirdness. Yep. Alright, let's melt 5 more and hit it again. The reddish one is definitely an energy beam now. The other two are still strong orange enough to still be time. Snack on one of our disgusting artificial fat blobs. And blast it. Boom. 20 more time ingots instantly. No, we don't melt 10. We melt 5. If we melt 10, then we fill the machine and it explodes when we do the conversion. Can't have that. Oh. All the beams are energy now. There is no more time to be had here. Well, I guess that kind of sits there, being useless. I mean, technically, does this just produce a time beam? Because if so, this would be a very useful loop. Now, it can't produce a time beam because time includes a tiny amount of blue. And this is not. Well, I have a bunch of it. Let's burn a nugget and see what it produces. Huh. That is successfully time at a power of 7. Which means I can use the time to make more time. Which solves everything. Yeah, when I can use one nugget of the product to make 10 ingots of the product, we have hit upon one of the great secrets of Crossroads. 360, keep it going. 450, blast it. And plus 10 nonsense. So I have all this time metal. It's just pure time. What other fun secrets do we have in here? Well, the entropy node, which is how to transfer temporal entropy and not have things explode. Nodes can store 64, but every transfer increases the amount by 2. So a big circuit will have to be regulated. The chronal harness produces forge energy and produces temporal entropy as a byproduct. Maximum safe power of 800 per tick. So if I could get the temporal entropy out of this thing, I could produce the whole 10 a tick needed to have a permanent electrolyzer running. But that requires having a beacon to get rid of the entropy. Let's have beam cannon. Fires beams huge distances at almost any angle. Angle is controlled and will change with rotary input. So this is a beam weapon. Pitch and yaw are the speed of 2 rotary inputs. So you don't manually rotate and aim it. You have to give it a speed that it's constantly trying to revert to its base angle. And it can be permalocked with a wrench. That seems like a lot of effort for not a whole lot. It's just a beam output that you can aim diagonally. Alright, there goes my stock of copper. We have made a whole bunch of magic metal. Let's be completely fair, that's exactly what it is. I also need to make my clone of the day. And I think today's experiment is going to be Boris. We're going to make a Super Boris. Wrong pick. That one goes up there. Boris is not going to be afflicted with stupid. You know what, though? He can be immortal. But I'm also going to need potions. One of these is perfect. Because I can't go above that. Is there also a potion of jumping? There is. It requires rabbit's feet. Or I melt frogs. I don't happen to have any frogs on hand. I also melt shulkers. For obvious reasons, I don't have any of those either. So, do I have to go hunting rabbit's feet? I think so. We could also, for extra silliness, give it slow falling. Oh yes, the plan takes shape. Remain where you are, Boris. We have plans for you. Step 1, desert. Yes, we're going to produce a super horse. Yeah, why isn't it working today? I didn't change it. It has worked just fine the past several days, and I have done exactly nothing. Chat, hide, unhide. It's still on top. And now it has this horrible purple border that... Yeah, the frame hasn't been there in the past, and the chat itself still isn't working. We just have a frame. Hooray. Yeah, it just decides it doesn't want to function sometimes. So we will turn off that unsightly frame. And YouTube will have to just assume that I'm talking to myself, as usual. Alright, so we go up north and take this river. And that goes where I need to be. My favorite thing about running about a Minecraft boat is when the oars come desynced. So they get like a kind of pulsing rhythm instead of just both. When both of the oars move at the same time like this, not that interesting. But if I get one, and then the other, and now we just run it like this, that's a more interesting sound. And I find it more interesting visually. It's just one of life's little nifties. Now, Rabbit. Rabbit fears player. Rabbit is very fast and difficult to catch. Hence the carrot. Rabbit is no longer afraid. Rabbit is dead. And there is a rabbit's foot instantly. You are a baby. You do not drop feet. The hunt continues. Because if I need to come here every time I need a leg, I think, yeah, you have growing time, you have growing time. You are fully grown. I accidentally bopped the rest of them with Sweeping Edge. That comes default on a sword of this size. But they're fine. They managed to survive my, what is this, my 14 damage sword's splash radius. Bunny. Large bunny? Small bunny? Large bunny. X bunny. You know what? That could be a use for... Oh, cats do that? I knew cats brought you presents, but I thought it was mostly string. Yeah, we are Looney Tunes in it. That's a baby. That's an adult. Hello, I have carrot. You fool. It was a trick all along. Yeah, I always work to minimize my reliance on RNG wherever possible, because I can't trust it. Ever. I mean, I'm the guy who can fail a 98% 12 times in a row. Where's all the bunnies? Up on this hill, according to Minimap. Yeah, it's why games involving loot boxes have never really grabbed me. I fell for that once, to the tune of about $50. And that was pretty much the end of my torrid love affair with gacha games. I guess I gotta be happy with the 1 foot here. That game was called Cosmic Break, and it had the 1-2 punch of required gacha mechanics to stay competitive, and constant power creep. And I mean constant exponential power creep. When I first started playing the game, it was honestly kind of easy, because I was locked to the noob servers with everyone who didn't know what they were doing yet. But then when you hit level 5 in the game, it suddenly throws you into the big boy pool with everyone else, including the entire pay-to-win crowd. And you're expected to survive. And the only way to survive from there, to get back the basic endorphin levels of not getting stomped into the ground every match, is to do what the pay-to-win guys did to become competitive. Pay up. I resisted that for quite a while with the, or rather on the very low level of, they give you trickles of premium currency here and there. Enough to give you just a taste of what it would be like if you went all in and actually paid into the game. And there are also some premium machines that you can buy straight out with premium currency, which are maybe C tier. So you've got like the free tier machines, which you will not win with. Then there's the biome tier machines, which are better than free, but not by a lot. And the only way to get even better than that is to play their gachas. And their gachas are, or were, I don't know if the game is even still running, they were full of losing options, traps, literal traps, machines that look good and have an interesting gimmick, but the second you put them on the battlefield, you just get washed. And I rolled a couple of times, just enough to get pretty badly burned on all of this. Where's my house? There it is. I haven't turned off the disable waypoints keybind yet. It's a default keybind in Journey Map. But Z is a very commonly used key, and there is never any situation where I want to turn off my waypoints. Anyway, Cosmic Break. I played the Cosmic Break gachas a few times, enough to get some random weird machines that were functionally worthless. And then it happened. 1 week, one of the gacha machines had as its top tier prize something called, I don't know, Little Fencer. It was a medium-sized machine with a large weapon. That was its gimmick. it could equip an oversized melee weapon. And it had a built-in overdrive that you could trigger a few times per spawn. That would, for a short time, make that giant weapon twice as long, twice as fast, and about 3 times as powerful. So you have this small, quick machine with a steroid and a super weapon. And it was a giant sword, so I had to have it. And I spent about 50 to 60 bucks rolling that gacha machine over the course of that week until I finally got it. And I got it, and after I got it, for the next 2 days, I was unstoppable because I had the S tier machine out of the most recent gacha. And then on day 3, they released a new gacha with an even more overpowered machine that was specifically targeted against melee machines like mine. And everyone had one. It was even worse than that, because this flying machine was small, fast, and had weapons that could outrange even artillery machines, which were supposed to be the counter to flying machines. It had the game has on paper anyway, a rock, paper, scissors mechanic, where melee beats artillery beats flying, and flying beats melee. Until they put this small flying machine in the gacha that beat everything. And that's when I quit. No gacha game or loot box has made me so much as blink since. So thank you, Cosmic Break, for being such distilled terrible. You saved me from being conned by an entire genre. Now I have all this raw rabbit, which I can cook up and throw downstairs into the fat melter. More horrifying liquid meat shenanigans. Rabbit stew, huh? Yeah, rabbits. Well, the thing is, hang on. I don't get food tooltip. What? But that. Blah. I don't get food tooltips while I'm in crafting menu, apparently. Rabbit stew. That is 10 hunger, 6 saturation, because hunger shanks are technically half shanks. Well, I can make 12 and 12. And downstairs I have like 64 of not quite this overpowered. But yeah, Crossroads, modded, all that fun stuff. I can melt all my food into liquid fat, and then, through the power of precisely set gear ratios, turn that liquid fat into food of any value I want. Literally any value. guess the least believable part of that is melting down a rabbit into liquid fat. You know, the notoriously so lean you could die of starvation while eating it meat. Okay, potion of swiftness, potion of leaping, potion of slow fall, rabbit hide. I think this is the rabbit resurrection ritual, and this is just leather. So, we turn our hides into leather, store the leather, trash the leftover hides, because they do nothing. And now we make some potions. Potions whose strength and duration are completely irrelevant. So that'll just make leaping. And then we'll manually make our slow fall. And we will have an immortal Hyperboreas. Because I can take blood from a bone. I'd ask if there are any other potions that'd be useful to put on mount. Like regeneration or something. But this is a lot of colors. Fire resist. That's a thought. Of course, how many potion particle effects do I really want to cram onto this poor beast? We're going to have a rainbow Boris by the time I'm done. Nether wart, nether wart. Blaze powder. Green is my most numerous slime ball. That's fire resist. Luck won't do him any good, he doesn't mind things. Strength won't do him any good. Let's not give him any damaging stuff. Is that all the potions? That is all the potions. I've scanned pretty much all the potions. I guess the last thing I could give him is regen. Which, he's a bone horse. I don't think undead can do regen. Yeah, but there's no harming over time. I could just give him a permanent harming potion, but that literally makes no sense. So I think we're all potioned out. Water breathing. He's undead, he doesn't care. Wait, he may actually care. technically some undead can still drown. Basically, there's no reason not to try. Now I have a bunch of pointless potions that are just waste products. And nowhere to put them. I'll worry about that later. Bone Horse Boris, you're being upgraded to Rain Boris. Centrifuge still not spinning. You there. Function. Make with the cold already. Well, I'm stuck waiting for this thing to wheeze. I know it's annoying waiting for this to trigger sometimes, but there is not a better source of cold. When this thing fires into a heat reservoir, it instantly creates a state of absolute zero. Nothing can go from room temperature straight to absolute zero like that. In fact, these ice boxes and the demon are capped at negative 200. This can go, and this can go to negative, like, bam, negative 270 something, which is mitigated somewhat by the sterling. But our spinning begins, and at right about 4, when it reaches 4, we throw it in. Deterioration 2. I think that's the best we've done. They're usually deterioration 3. Oh, and I can't forget the name tag. I'll actually need 2 name tags. One for the no despawn property, and one to give him his name back. Rain Boris. The sequel. I'm sorry, Boris, you're being replaced. Alright. Input the blood. And the immortality cluster. Swiftness. Jump boost. Slow falling. Water breathing because why not? Fire resistance because it's logical. Name tag so he doesn't despawn. This is a lot. This is our most ambitious clone yet. Nonsense. We are making Boris 2.0. This is much better than making Cloned Cow 1 of the Infinite Infinite Cow series. Now into the incubator you go. At perfect temperature, thanks to our work the other day. I should probably block all this in. It is an unsightly pit. There we are. Boris Reborn will have one disadvantage compared to Boris the original. And that is the Deterioration 2 reduces his max hearts. Our current Boris has 3, 6, 7.5 hearts. So this will be not that. Yeah, his genetic strain 4, as opposed to the 2 I was promised. Also, he's Rain Boris now. Execute the original. To saddle his replacement. And he doesn't feel like his speed has improved. Nor has his jump. In fact, he seems to jump less now. Permanent jump boost, speed, and slow falling. He has none of those. And still takes fall damage. We have made an identical Boris with less health. And tons of potion effect. It even says he has a higher jump height and an increased speed, but there's no evidence of it. I guess what you could do maybe is use this genetics nonsense to create two horses with incredible stats and then breed them together into a super horse that hopefully does not have genetic decay. I don't know if that would work. But you could certainly try to get to break the game by producing a horse with unlimited stats that way. True, there is only one way to find out. Unfortunately, that way is going to take us weeks, because since the incubation chamber is broken, we only get one clone a day. Unless I bring down the server and bring it back up again. Now that I've produced one clone, it doesn't matter what I do to a new embryo, it will not produce a spawn egg. Something is broken in the incubator, where after you produce one spawn egg, some kind of leftover data corrupts every spawn egg after that, and it makes it so I can't have any more spawn eggs today. It's more than a little messed up, but the developer has no intention of fixing this version. I mean, I can understand. This version is 3 years old. Yes, I tried that the first day. Breaking the incubator and placing it back down again does not solve the issue. Okay, I can keep these fire resist potions. In fact, I can redstone them and then keep them. But these others, these are of no use to me. Perhaps the insane horse breeding experiment is something we can do when we return to Crossroads in a later mod version. Because we will be coming back to Crossroads in a more complete form. However, I think, now that I have access to Copshowium, that we can make what is technically one of the Crossroads capstones. The Flying Machine. Made with bronze, Copshowium gears, Copshowium, a density plate, and an anti-density plate. A density plate is just made of densus. I have densus. Has he made here? Yes, well, this one is no different in that regard. Anti-density is made by electrolyzing phlogiston with densus at middling temperatures, and it destroys the phlogiston and the densus. I'm only going to need 3. So over here in the absolute 0 container, we place our crystal phial, which doesn't even interact with temperature, so why did I bother? 17 frozen SO2. Pour in some more phlogiston. Remove the SO2. And that gives us 3 phlogiston. And 3 densus. We combine these in a crystal flask at 200 to 300. So 275 should be fine. Unfortunately, the temperature here has no reason to go down. Because we have perfect heat cable. I can put it on the room temperature one, and it plummets, and well, it's technically in range. Maybe I should slow down the heatsink loss on that thing. Now, densus phlogiston, at temperature, zap it, antidensus. Anti-density plate. As much as those are not words that make sense in any context. Now I just need 3 bronze and a little bit of copshoium. Which we have in technically infinite supply now. Because it's just that easy to make. They also look exactly like copper gears. Please ignore that. And now we have a flying machine. There's a reason it looks this weird. And that reason is entirely that it is this weird. Doesn't take any fuel, though, which I suppose is an advantage. But it looks like, well, like that. Points the direction we point, and then I press forward and it zooms backward for no apparent reason. And now it's flying, and now it's moving down and up, and what do we even do? What's even going on? Pressing forward and back seems to change its direction of motion. And I just kind of go in a useless loop like that if I hold forward. So what is going on? The answer is that if you're not in F5, you will never understand how this thing functions. Forward and back rotates that plate underneath. So the blue side, the densest plate, is pulling, and the yellow side, anti-densest, is pushing. Think of it as a thruster. So by pointing it at an angle like this, I can kind of helicopter around. I'll go straight up by pointing it straight at the ground. If I flip the plate over, it pulls itself toward the ground at speed. I guess the advantage to it is that if you angle it just right, you don't have to hold down a key to move, it just kind of moves. And yeah, it's technically faster and cheaper than the Beescraft machine. It also doesn't consume fuel, but the speed still isn't that great. It's only slightly better than walking. And can you imagine trying to manage this little thruster square in the nether, under fire from ghasts? Sure, you could just float around however and wherever you want, but while you're being attacked, having to watch that little thing underneath your butt to make sure it's at the correct angle, that's not happening. You're going to panic and dive straight into lava. Never mind the fact that it parks by pointing itself at the ground, and the only way to get off the ground is to have a powerful liftoff slide before the thing points upward. And I think if I get off of it right now, aside from having the terrible fall that comes with that, then having the plate set this way will just cause my flying machine to continue to rise eternally into the sky and leave me behind. I could just make another one. Now that I have the materials, it's not that expensive. But why would I want to waste a flying machine by sending it into the sky? So yeah, technically we have a flying machine now. Is it a good one? Not even close. Although, I could... You know what? I do have a use for this thing. And it's in the nether. I am no longer interested in making a ground car for my nether tunnel. As a sliding ground vehicle, this is better. I'll just point the plate forward and smash my face into the ceiling. Whee! It's so hard to see. This tunnel will have to be taller or something. And it does not like staircases. But we're cruising. This is just how we get to our blaze farm now. Chair of Speed. Ow. That's my face and some blocks. That's fall damage. So it's not perfect. No solution is. And here we are. That entirely saves me from having to make a ground car with these machines method. Except for the small little detail that I keep smashing my face into the ceiling on the way, and it hurts. I could replace some of these ceiling blocks with glass. They're considered transparent and therefore don't suffocate you. Which, works. Like most solutions, it's functional but not pretty. I still have it in my head that I want to make blazes with infinite regeneration. Cloned blazes with regeneration to put in here. But I don't know if the regeneration is faster than the damage they're taking. You know what? More than horse nonsense? That's a worthy question. I gotta slowly fly up out of here and then not stick my face in the ceiling. Pardon me. I think we're gonna find out. So I'm gonna go home, turn it off and on again, grab my clone making stuff, come back here, take a blaze sample, go all the way home again, and we're going to make a regenerating blaze clone to stick in there to see if it's infinite. It does not glide upstairs. I still have to float it and ceiling myself. Also, the machine does not move all on its own when not mounted. Good to know. So it wouldn't fly away if I dismounted it in flight mode. Fire resist. Fire resist. Alright, these are already awkward potions. So I need my only gas tier. Does it do anything else? It makes end crystals. And has some ritual significance. End crystals melt into not gas tiers. But can add... I don't know what. They add something. Doesn't matter. We're going to do science to it. And I'm going to give it a soul cluster because maybe, even if the regeneration doesn't keep it alive, maybe it keeps it alive long enough for the respawn debuffs to fall off. And that'll make it infinite anyway. It also needs a name tag. And do I dare... I can store clones of it and then deliver it? No. We're not going to do that. Alright. Mad Science Step 1. Restart. Now I can clone again. Mad Science Step 2. Blood sample. I don't know what killed him. He had half a heart after my swing, and then he just kind of died. I don't think I have anything on this sword that does damage over time. I don't, right? It doesn't say I have anything. So I don't know what ended that zombie pig, or that piglet. He just kind of died. Hey, bad Enderman. No messing with my turbo tunnel. Step 2. Blood sample ablaze. Any blaze. It can be from here. It can be from anywhere. Let me just borrow some of the glass. The important parts of this still run. Doink. Blood sample. I now have 2 hours to begin doing my evil magic to this thing. Now we flying machine all the way back. You have a sign. I'm pretty sure that was a queen slime sign, based on the color. I'll have to be more particular with the centrifuge speed. I don't think I can get a redstone signal and a redstone master axis to perfectly run the centrifuge. But maybe? I think it would take more than this amount of time to get that figured out. And surely 2 fewer hearts on a blaze is not going to make that much difference. But I really could try to have this governed by a circuit and a redstone master axis to give it the perfect speed at all times. Unfortunately, I don't care that much. Deterioration 3. pretty much what I expected. Is it daytime? It's daytime enough. Still technically before noon. Oh, there's an energy beam in there already that I can use. Or, no, a charge beam. Not to be confused with Mega Man charge beam. Alright. Blood sample. Immortality. Regeneration. Name tag. It's alive. I could put Copshoium over here. That would make the centrifuge flipping back and forth less crippling to its speed. That's actually a good thought. Incubator. Make me an undying blaze. While that's underway, let's actually look into optimizing our salt setup. How much Copshoium nonsense would I need? 2 axles, 3 gears, back, a clutch and a toggle gear. Yeah, clutch, toggle, 2 axles, 3 gears. And the toggle is inverted. I should easily have enough for that. And this becomes the inverted toggle. Two axles, and 2 more go into a clutch. Let's see if this doesn't just fix everything. I'm gonna guess no. In fact, I'm gonna guess this will cause another problem. Now that I'm not draining the speed to run the centrifuge, this gear speed can increase. We have these two gears, our kippity quappity quappity clutch, which I can't place yet because the other gear has to go first. Just put that there so I can put this here. It is slightly more orange than copper because it's made of time. The invert toggle gear goes right there. And the clutch. I can't place the clutch yet because now I can't place the other gear. One of these days I will learn order of operations. Toggle gear. Normal gear. Normal gear. Clutch. Hippity hoppity axle. There. Now the centrifuge reverses direction instantly with no loss of momentum. And it just needs the time delay to make back up the power that was consumed by the operation. And other... There you are. It's still losing power overall. But I guess the advantage here is that when that thing dies, it'll take longer for the entire system to run out of power completely. Technically, I can do the same thing with my windmill and make the parts that need to change speed or change direction also weightless. Can I de-specialize these? No, I can only invert. I can't uncraft these specialized pieces. I can't untemperature data these things so they stack again. But we're getting away from what was important. The experiment. Our regenerating tamed blaze that I'm going to throw directly into the blaze boiler and see if it lasts forever. Hey everybody! That's a lot of dudes in a tunnel. Let me grab this, which will have the pleasant side effect of relieving me of some of the head bonk that comes with dealing with this section. And now, Infinite Blazeworks, go. That's a big no. I mean, ow. He's supposed to be tamed. So he dies. The regeneration either wasn't fast enough or didn't work at all. But he will respawn in 30 seconds. And then melt again, probably in less than 30 seconds, and be permanently dead. Yep, he's not coming back from that. He died with soul transients on. Oh, but he dropped soul shards because he died with soul transients on, which is half of the soul shards it cost to make him immortal. So, the experiment is a bust. But that means I know not to try it in the future. Alright, let me knock out a little bit of this stuff, so it can be less in the way. Especially this that I'm avoiding every time we come back. Alright then. Back to our regularly scheduled floating down the hole. Out of my tunnel. Alright, so the actual experiment was a failure, but we learned something, which is arguably just as important. And I have a flying machine. Hooray. Let me take this crystal soul, bring it downstairs into my soul boiler, which is this one on the left. Re-render it back into soul chunks. How about this windmill, which could definitely do better? Could definitely do a lot better. One axle, invert gear, clutch. I think that's it. We managed to minimize what needs to be flipped back and forth. And this axle specifically isn't even needed. It's just kind of decorative. So let's do some remodeling. I can even cop show him this giant gear. That'll make it less effort to turn. Nothing's going to change the fact that I have two giant flywheels in the basement. But I can at least reduce the overall weight of what I'm doing here. redstone torch, lever, clutch. That was an invert toggle gear, right? Same as it was with our other setup. Yeah, invert toggle gear, normal clutch. Let me actually grab the wrench this time, so I can move individual items. First thing, you. I said you. I said... Okay, giant gear must be manually broken. Replaced with slightly more orange gear. This breaks the everything. Axle. Okay, the axle is required, the gear is connected to it. Inverted toggle gear. And wait. Gear. I remembered. Clutch. Gear. It is not running at all. Oh, because it's not connected. It's not connected to the master axle. There we go. And the blades are spinning backwards. As they do. As I hate it when they do. Because we currently have negative wind. Odd that this speed isn't changing. Our wind generator is generating additional power. All of our circuits are correct. But our system speed is not increasing. This is something I suspected might happen. We'll place a regular copper axle there. Our system speed is still not increasing. In fact, our system speed isn't even changing, which is really bizarre. Okay. Way down here, it's slowly ramping up. But up here, before this gear shift, the changes are so minuscule that they're unnoticeable. So I guess they are changing. It's just that the changes are too small to see. Also, the wind is at -21, which is incredible. I didn't know it could go that high. But I guess for now, that's done it. And the optimal thing would be to replace that axle again. Because I removed it based on a faulty assumption. Axle toggle clutch. Oh. And yeah, the blades reverse direction instantly. So now that our gear shift here has 0 inertia, the wind turbine can only add power to the system and cannot remove power from it under any circumstances. As I'm looking at power being removed from the system. Okay then. Don't know where my power is going, but that is apparently a thing that is still happening. I just can't win with these things. Oh well. There are some unrealized things here in Technomancy. We have the beam cage, which is a beam battery. That's literally all it does. That's all it has to do. It's just a big bundle of reflective surfaces that hold all 4 types of beams. And if you are hit by a beam while you are holding a beam cage, then the beam does nothing to you, it just goes into the cage. So it makes you immune to beams. Here's the beam cannon, we read about that. The beacon harness. Beam staff. It's a handheld tool that feeds off of the beam cage and fires beams. You can increase the setting or decrease the setting for any of the 4 beam alignments, and by having a beam cage of stored beam, you can produce beams of any color at will. And Bobo is willing to tell us about another multi-tool. This beam staff, the diagnostic gear crank, and a wrench, makes who knows what, something else, by the power of Bobo. Chrono harness, yeah, this was the Forge Energy thing. Clockwork stabilizer is like a quartz stabilizer. Stores beams, outputs 20%, so it smooths out received beams, turning pulses into continuous beams. I can't imagine the use for this thing. The Kopshoium, which we've made. Detailed Autocrafter. It's an autocrafter that does detailed crafter recipes. The Entropy Node, which moves entropy around. The Entropy Sink, which consumes entropy, requires a beacon to function. The Flying Machine, which we just made and is kind of disappointing. Novel, but disappointing. Gateway. It is a massive teleporter that has a dialing feature, kind of like a Stargate. There's an endpoint controller. So the way the gateway works is you build this. There's one controller block, a double ring of gateway edge. It just has to be a square ring. The top center block is a controller. It has to be an odd number of blocks. And the ring should have a width of side length divided by 5. Oh, I see. So 5 by 5, 7 by 7, or 9 by 9 is 1 block deep. And if you go bigger, it has to be 2 blocks deep. The multi-block is formed by right-clicking the gateway controller with a wrench. They have addresses of 4 beam alignments that are unique to that gateway. In order to link 2 gateways, one of the gates must dial the beam address of the other. The gateway is dialed using beams and an axle connection on the top center block. So yeah, it has a central dialing wheel, so literally Stargate. When the gateway controller receives a beam pulse, the currently selected beam alignment will be dialed. The selected alignment is the one at the section of the dialing wheel at the top. The dialing wheel will rotate to the angle in radians equal to the speed of the attached axle connection. So you have to hold the correct speed to put the wheel at the correct angle, and then you hit it with a beam pulse. And it's not clear whether the beam has to be of the alignment currently dialed, or if it doesn't care. After the first alignment is dialed in, the dialing wheel angle will be axle speed minus speed when the first alignment was locked in. So you need even more speed. And then after the second alignment is dialed in, it will be speed minus speed when the second was done. So there's it's a combination lock, and the speed required to dial each number constantly changes. And then it resets when you get the fourth connection, the fourth alignment be dialed in. The gateway doing the dialing produces 1 temporal entropy per tick while connected. Circuits will measure the number of locked-in alignments. So you can theoretically automate the dialing process by having a circuit and a sequencer of some kind. You have an endpoint current controller, which can't be dialed, but you can dial to it. And apparently just switch on a connection to the last gateway it was connected to. And reopening that connection begins producing temporal entropy at the gate that you connect back to. Yeah, you can set up one gateway with full dialing system to act as a hub that goes to many different endpoint gates, all of which connect back to the hub. Most complicated teleportation system of any mod. Item cannon. It's a beam cannon, but for items. If the item cannon launches an alchemy shell, it's a projectile and explodes. It does the rotary input thing that the beam cannon does to aim. Lodestone dynamo. Consumes 4 energy and produces spin power at the same exchange rate as the dynamo. Lodestone turbine. Produces rotary power for free constantly. In the nether and the end and any other dimension where compasses don't work. And now Bobo is telling us about another method of making infinite power. What's brown and sticky? A stick. Orange thyme, so Copshoium, and the meaning of life, the manyverse, and everything on Meat Nug Nug. So that's a meat nugget set to 42. Not 64, but 42. I can do that. But I don't have a whole lot of poisoned potatoes left. It might solve some of our problems, though, to have infinite power in another way. And Bobo wasn't wrong with the Maxwell's demon. The infinite heat source worked out pretty well. So to make a meat nugget of 42, considering these are all multiplied by 4, this has to be 1. That's 4 food value. And then 2 is an 0.5. Half of 4. Fire on, fire off. 42s. Let me turn this back to what it was before. Two, 5, and 2. So I have the ediblobs that Bobo wants. We need more poison patat. Poi patat. I got 3. Let's keep those potatoes coming as our primary... What? Why did I just hear a piston noise? I don't have any automated pistons. Alright, extra seeds get trashed. Potatoes and potatoes we cook. Carrots we just throw into the food processor. Brown and sticky. A steak. The offering. The special meat nugget. And orange thyme. Do I have to use a full ingot, or can I get away with a nugget? Let me check my Bobo records. It has to be a full ingot. Well, that's unfortunate. Oh. And it would help if I had the rod. Ding. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Ding. You just made hamster wheels, which produce 5 joules per tick. It is infinite rotary power at kind of low speed, but it's infinite rotary power. If I can find someplace to jam these guys, where they won't break my system entirely, then I might be able to take some load off of the very struggling windmill. I'm gonna guess, probably incorrectly, that I can just stick this guy right here. And his little feetsies are running. So maybe he can push a little extra power into the system here. And now I will block him in completely and pretend I don't know him. Who is that masked hamster anyway? It is bringing up the system power. So maybe with a couple of gears, I can stuff another hamster into the system. Because they don't have a lot of power on their own. But surely the answer is more hamster. Axel. Gear, gear, gear. Hamster wheel will not go in the same block space as the gear, but they can turn an axle. Our windmill is now joined by 2 hamster power. We'll just pretend they aren't there. But hey, they're managing to add energy to the system. Thanks to double hamster power, speed is rising. Is it rising a lot? Well, no. But it's rising. We have successfully taken some strain off of the windmill and added a little power. I could make more hamster wheels. I could run this whole system off of a hamster wheel. And it would be better than trying to run it off of steam from outside solar. Because this is a joke. and not a good one either. I could also try hamster wheeling my blood centrifuge downstairs. That wouldn't be a terrible idea. Anyway, lodestone turbine. It has an I of 300, produces 15 joules a tick, so it's triple the speed, or triple the acceleration of the hamster wheel. But the hamster wheel doesn't have to be in the nether. Personal time rewinder. It allows you to go back in time. Causes temporal whiplash in the form of nausea and possibly poison. And has a 5-minute duration and uses a wound spring. But you get to snap back to your location, health, hunger, orientation, and momentum from when you saved. Redstone Master Axes we've been using. Sequencer. Redstone device that allows setting a sequence of redstone circuit values and outputting them in order. This is the thing that will help you automate dialing one of the Stargate transporters. So you could put a 4 circuit value in here, and that would be the combination of the Stargate that you're targeting. Technomancy armor. It is arguably armor. It is unbreakable and enchantable, but has no protection unless you apply netherite armor to it. Full armor, not just an ingot. The enchantments of the armor are preserved, but the netherite armor itself is just consumed. Giving it that netherite upgrade gives it durability, but when it runs out of durability, it's still unbreakable. It just doesn't provide protection anymore. Modular goggles provide lenses, or rather, you have to add lenses to it. Of the 4 colors and also pure quartz, they're activated with keybinds. Ruby lens gives you a fire laser. Where does this fire laser come from? I don't know. Maybe it's free. Emerald lens, free night vision. Diamond lens opens a detailed crafter. And pure quartz gives you a permanent omnimeter, so I wouldn't have to carry this thing around to look at my gear system. Amethyst lens gives you a spyglass. Propelled wing pack. An elytra with a built-in rocket booster that is run by a spring. While holding the boost key, you get a speed boost, and the spring will slowly be drained. It can be used as an unbreakable elytra that provides netherite tier armor and doesn't need fireworks for boosting. That's a lot of perks. You just need to have a spring constantly winding it. Tool Belt. Protects your hotbar and offhand on death. But the tool belt drops. All-terrain boots. Soul Speed, Feather Falling, Depth Strider, Frostwalker all in one. And doesn't consume durability. The Feather Falling effect totally eliminates fall damage. The Frostwalker effect of freezing water only applies when sneaking, so you can still swim. And maybe it works on lava without consuming durability. And it says hold sneak to freeze water. Doesn't mention how it works with lava. And then Bobo has another goggle lens. A void type crystal. No mention of what it does, only that it exists. And finally we have the Temporal Accelerator. Speeds up time in a 5x5 area. Affecting blocks, entities, both. It requires a time beam and produces temporal entropy as a byproduct. I'll speed up time by the beam power divided by 4. And while boosting time, entropy is produced that grows exponentially with the additional boosts that you provide. Multiple overlapping accelerators stack. The accelerator itself cannot be accelerated. There is a distributed accelerator, which is bigger, that only affects tile entities. Not block ticks, not entities. It requires a stronger time beam, produces more entropy, but is more efficient in terms of beam usage. Multiple overlapping accelerators stack. So yeah, that's the major time control thing of Technomancy. I think our hamsters have hit their limit. What load is this system under that it refuses to go higher than 454? Is it my water pump? It's got to be the water pump. Because there's nothing else this rotary system is actually doing. It just doesn't want to fast. Yeah, that's still alive. It's remarkable how long a Wii's work can last when it wants to. When it doesn't want to, it's equally remarkable how long it doesn't last. Yeah, we just went from like 40 liquid fat to over 200. The potatoes are great for improving our fat content. And I have 12 blobs on me and 8 10s that I intend to be my main food source once I run out of the 12s. Incubator's doing perfectly with the source heat cable being regulated off the demon. This thing is a thing. It's just a thing. Rotary speed needs to be kept on the target speed. Circuits read the target speed. The trouble with this thing is that I could Redstone Master control it, but I'd need to have a way to get the spin into it and have the master axis on the same height level. So I can read it and then get a circuit into the master axis. I think that can be done anyway. I think it's possible. I just have to move where this rotary output is going. Find some other location for the centrifuge. I could make a perfect centrifuge with a redstone master axis. And this is spinning at maximum speed for a Stirling. Stirlings can't go above 2 radians per second. What is this heatsink doing again, precisely? This temperature wants to be negative. That's why. I gotta get my wrench back, because I broke and replaced the thing. If I take a whole bunch of gears and axles that can totally be copper, it's fine. Redstone master axis made from a regular master axis. And 2 bronze. And 2 iron. It's always with the bronze and stuff. Master axis, redstone has to be in this crafter. I will need quartz and circuits. Let's see if I can perfect this thing. So, first target. Where is the centrifuge going? Over here, I think. And the closer I can get in line with this, the better. So our optimal blood centrifuge position is here. And that is you run off a master axis that is basically here, connected more or less directly to a reader. The master axis can run on 100% Kopshodium. It does not have an inertial requirement. So if I grab 2 axles and 3 gears, then I can set my speed perfectly. And that will spin the blood centrifuge at the perfect speed, assuming I can get some gear power into the backside of the master axis. To do that, well, I can't pass through this axle. I'm going to have to go down. Here's our target. A copper axle. Ideally connected to a big gear. This solves currently none of our problems. And I want some more big gears so I can increase this thing's gear ratio because it's spinning at 2. And I need to get this thing up to a max of 10. So it's copper time. I'm pretty sure large copper gear, yes, has a big version. So how many times can I gear ratio this thing until it gets, before it gets mad? Large to small. Spin the shaft straight through the floor. And somewhere down here, we give another large to small. Got a rotation ratio of 9 and accelerating. Glad this Wheezewort is still running. Oh yeah, and a wrench. Buff that as high as it'll go to give us as much power as we can get. Can I get away with this? I think I've tried. Can I just stick a large gear here? No. What if I remove the small gear first? No. Why does the large gear not go there? I don't know. 'Tis a mystery. But I think I can get away with ratioing up by putting a large gear here and then using the small gear directly on the large gear thing, and boom. Ratio is up to 9. Give it another small. Ratio is 27. I think that's all the gear ratio I need. Because speed is going where I need it to. Which means our last order of business is to connect this wildly spinning gear where I need it to go. No more large gears required. Okay, that should not have gone there. This gear spins the axle. And with 2 more gears, we make the connection. It instantly slows because large gear is functioning as a power flywheel. Try and get a few lights down here so nonsense doesn't spawn in the gear cavity. And I need a way out. It does not like how much power it's being asked to produce. And the speed it's producing is, well, it's getting there. I think I'll leave this open as a window into the available power. And that should make our blood centrifuge theoretically perfect. It has a giant flywheel battery to draw from, only needs to produce speed, and it has no inertia, so these gears just kind of zip. So future clones should have no genetic damage. Hello, dark spot. Can't have that. Not allowed. And we are still running salt at no temperature. Why at no temperature? Because my lever is off. There's plenty of heat here to be used. It's just not using it. And you know what? It probably shouldn't, because this tank is pretty overloaded. I have too much salt in here anyway. We'll let it continue to construct the trickle. And how are these spoiled? What? It's running off of an icebox. 2 iceboxes. And the demon. This never goes below. This never goes above -190. And yet our creepers are dead. Freezer box. It just don't work. And that is pretty much Crossroads. There are other more advanced toys as described by the book, but I kind of have no use for them. The whole cloning thing is great and a lot of fun for making infinite mob farms, but that's not working either. Just because we're in a legacy version. I would like to think that on a proper version of the mod that is up to date, it would work perfectly. Because it has worked perfectly for me in the past. The cloning, not the whole mod. Not exactly selling it, am I? It is crazy difficult to figure out what you're supposed to do with all this weirdness. But once you get there, you have ore tripling that only costs carbon items, which is cheaper than smelting them the regular way, and it produces a useful byproduct that you will need later. You can make flying machines, magic lasers, and infinite heat sources that cook your food. Steam boilers and grinders and unlimited glowstone and redstone from more laser nonsense. It does a lot. And whether or not that a lot is useful to you is entirely for you to find out. It's one of those mods where you can do as much or as little of it as you want. And unlike some other mods I could name, if you don't want to get into Crossroads, there are no mechanics that it forces you to engage with. It is straight up useful and has no penalties unless you risk those penalties yourself by mismanaging alchemy or technomancy. Everything else is just gravy. And yeah, one industrial crucible can handle 2 fluid cooling chambers. Don't use 2 crucibles for a lava loop, because then it consumes more heat than it produces and crashes more easily. The one crucible can function with the speed of 2 if its temperature gets high enough. There are also all these grenades, and it can break bedrock. So if you're on a server with an abusive admin who likes to throw bedrock everywhere that he shouldn't, make some Aqua Regia grenades. It's fine. Let him wonder how people keep blowing holes in his useless bedrock admin barriers. Let me also point out that I made 1 Wheezewort seed, and it was cheap. And we now have 17 in reserve, and they're also in use all around the base. It's a cool little thing. Uh-oh. I can't afford to let this stop running. I mean, maybe I could. This isn't doing anything, so there's no reason for it to slow down. I'm just trying to store rotary power in flywheels. And the blood centrifuge isn't... I mean, it wasn't consuming power before and it would slow down. I am suddenly concerned about friction. Are you slow? You were at point... Well, that must have fired. Speed's coming up again. And this is at 6. Its energy value has doubled, at least. So yeah, our core takeaway here is that blood centrifuge is ready to go and make perfect infinite animals. Like chickens. I could clone chickens now. It might also be smart to clone some pigs that aren't perma-stupid. Because a perma-stupid pig cannot be encouraged to breed. Also a fascinating question. If I breed together 2 genetically modified animals, is the result genetically modified? I feel like the book already answers that. Cloning. Mass production of rare mob drops, super strong pets, better mounts. Yeah, tried that, didn't work. Respawning, imprinting, potions, perma potions, like fire resistance or regeneration. Tried that, didn't work. Clones have degradation, blood samples, embryos. And duplicated in the incubator. Spawn eggs, doesn't use heat. It doesn't say anywhere. If clones breed true, or if they breed into normal animals. You know what I could do, though? I could attach something else to my heat loop here and run a potion vat. And then brew potions at up to double speed without blaze powder. The trouble with this thing, though, is that it's loud. That's the only reason I don't like it. It's useful, it's a nice machine, it's loud. It makes bubbling noises like the formulation vats. Our speed here is still increasing. But I think, unless there's something I've forgotten in my item list, that is more or less everything I'd intended to showcase. We dabbled in Vscraft, didn't go very far because they require very bizarre upgrade materials. We've done all kinds of tinker things. Not necessarily all of the tinker things, but enough of the tinker things to have a very good idea of how to tinker. We can also melt mobs to get potions. We've looked into that. We've made Tinker's armor, Tinker's tools, and shields. Yeah, Tinker's shield, which is not something I usually make. We're still using it. It's a rare mod indeed that can get me to use a shield. Cheese. Cheese? You get cheese by casting milk, and it removes a random effect. I had no idea. Jeweled apple. Pour diamonds over an apple. Makes haste and resistance. And gives a revitalizing max, plus max health trait. This is a holdover from other Tinker's Construct versions where you could make literally heart containers with them. Upside down potion ichor bottle from melting nether slime. In what world would I ever want to do that? Well, I guess it provides absorption, but it provides slowness for more than that. So, why? Many of the reinforcements are cast onto patterns now, and not obsidian panes as they all used to be. Mining charge. Never used it. It's a thing, though. Might have made nether mining faster. More tinker stuff. Then we get into storage drawers stuff. I don't know what these buttons are for. Advanced backpacks, some of which didn't work. Roots, which we never played with the magic system of. There's still more roots to be rooted. But I have very little incentive to go playing around with it. There is the crystal staff, which can hold multiple roots spells, but the root spells themselves aren't that great. Pretty Pipes, which we've used. Mob Grinding Utils, which we have done to death in a previous playthrough. Essentials, which comes with... It's required for Crossroads. It does a lot. It has some neat things. Like the Brazier, which makes Enderman farms possible if you can make an Enderman spawner through other means. Because the Brazier with Soul Sand in it prevents Ender teleportation. We got... I don't know what this is for. The linking tool. Animal feed. Apparently if I smelt food that has already been cooked, or food that can't be cooked, we get a food that works for everybody. Hopper filters. Oh, this is what the linking tool is for. Wireless redstone. Could have used that, actually. Shifters and splitters and wither cannons. Shoots a wither skull. All the fertile soils, which slowly produce crops without having to have crops planted on them. And they also don't need water. Crossroads fluids. The multi-piston, which can be very stretchy. 15 block distance piston. Copshoium bricks are part of Essentials. They look like Mario bricks. Also possible bronze, gold, tin, iron. Our Ender storage, which we've used a little bit. Then we get into Crossroads, which we've done like 70% of, and ignored the dangerous parts. Cow leggings, that's a Bobo thing. There's an entire set of Bobo armor made of mobs. And then we get to regular Minecraft stuff. So there isn't a mod in here that I've forgotten. There are simply mods that I have deliberately neglected. But I think that'll do it. We did what we set out to do, which apparently did not involve defeating the Wither or the Ender Dragon. Never even went to the end. Why? Everything I need is right here. And with that, I think we will close down this server for the last time. Consider when we will next revisit Crossroads with more modern incarnations, hopefully less buggy. And we will see what happens on Wednesday when I return. Until then.